Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dennae Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. On the podcast with us today is Scott Carson. Scott, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, glad to be here. Excited as always. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we are looking forward to having a good discussion with you today, and we would like for you to get us started by just telling our audience a little bit about, your background and where your focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
So I'm kind of known across the country as the note guy. For the last 10 plus years, I've been a real estate entrepreneur focused primarily on buying distressed mortgages, distressed debt from banks and hedge funds. And I have an educational platform along with it where I teach other real estate investors how to do what I do as well.
So that is a space that I do not know a lot about. I know in the green room, I told you I was talking to somebody else about this that's very familiar with it, but I still, even after talking to that person, have no clue really what it is. I will admit that I have not taken the time to actually educate myself. So I know that I probably could figure it out. But obviously, with you and your experience and the platform that you have, it would definitely be a better way to do that. What kind of, without revealing too much, I don't want you to get into speculation or, no solicitations or anything with any violations of anything. But what are some of the typical returns that some of the investors are seeing with this note buying business?
We buy distressed debt. So we buy mortgages where people aren't paying for 6 months, 12 months, 24 months. So the banks sell those notes to us at a big discount. So we're buying the debt at like 33, 40, 50 cents on the dollar of what's owed. And then our goal is to reach back out to the homeowners to get those loans reperforming. So if a mortgage is at 6% and we buy it at 50 cents on the dollar and we can get them to start repaying, that's at least a 12% return on investment to us on the front end. And then our goal, after having the borrower pay for 6 or 12 months on time, is then we'll turn around and sell that note now to an investor who's looking for a performing note. And we'll be able to sell that at, say, like 80, 85 cents of the dollar. So that's another 30 to 35% of profits on the back end. So our typical deal isn't like 3 to 6 months like a fix and flipper. It's usually 12 to 18 months. And, if you're looking for performing notes and you want to invest in performing notes, you're going to get a 12 to 15% return. If you're looking for non-performing, we don't usually, don't look at doing a deal unless we're going to see around a 20 to 25% return.
And is the process the same as far as, closing costs and all this kind of stuff, or is it a lot more streamlined process?
It's a lot more streamlined because it's a banking transaction. So we're not closing on the property. We step in the shoes and become the bank. So if you've ever bought a house and had a mortgage on it, 30, 60 days later, you got a letter in the mail saying, oh, your mortgage has been sold to Chase or, Citibank or something like that. And so we're like the Chase Citibank on that. We're literally buying the assets. It's basically a wire fee. There's not a closing because we're not closing on the property. We're closing on the debt. It's a pretty simple transaction with wire fees taking place. I wire money to the bank. 2 weeks later, the documents show up to me, showing ownership, and the assignment of mortgage is what's recorded at the, the county clerk and title. And that's what transfers ownership from the mortgage from Bank A to my entity.
So it's basically just transferring lien holders.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want you to kind of talk to us about some tough decisions as an entrepreneur that you've had to make along your journey. And I want you to start us off with one that did not have that good of an outcome and maybe a lesson or two that you learned through it.
I can give you a couple. The first one I would tell you is always trust your gut. And in my businesses, we're out raising capital for projects. We're working with private investors. And any time that I have had an investor come in that funded a deal that I just didn't trust my gut on, I ended up regretting it. I just didn't get a good feel for them. And I went ahead and did it because I needed to get the deal closed. But I probably should have just done a little bit more marketing because it just, when you deal with somebody you just don't get along with, you just have a bad feeling. People really are suit happy these days. All right. And we did everything we were supposed to do, providing updates. And one of these deals drug on a little bit longer. Well, they got upset and then they started threatening to sue us. And so we just literally refinanced them out and got out of the deal. We lost a little bit of money in the deal, just getting rid of them. But I would always tell people out there to trust their gut. Now, another deal that we did, not really a deal, we were going to put on a big workshop, a big kind of seminar aspect of it. We were all excited about doing this event. Lots of marketing. We were dropping 20 grand in marketing and 25 grand with the hotel and everything like that. And I seem to think of myself as a pretty good marketer. Well, we were expecting 300 people to show up at this event, and only 25 people bought tickets. And I had speakers coming in from all across the country, and I have never been more stressed out in my life with this event because I had so much on the line with it, to the point where I literally just said, okay, we're just going to cancel this. This does not make sense. I'm going to have my speakers come out and my friends fly across the country to talk to 25 people. So we canceled the event, ate a big check on it, and that was not a fun time. Called all our speakers up. But what's funny is that they actually respected me for telling them not to come due to the poor turnout. They enjoyed having the weekend off. They're like, oh, just call us on the next one, Scott, and we'll get you taken care of. So
how close to the event date were you?
I was 4 days out from it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I called them on a Monday because we were supposed to start on a Thursday, or I think it was a Friday, actually. But what was beautiful is we learned something valuable from that event.
Never put on an event. No.
Well, we still put on events. We just stopped doing them in person in the big hotel events like that. We started doing online events, online conferences, and now that's all we do. We don't do a hotel event anymore. We do everything via Zoom, virtual conference. We have our events now have grown to like 1,500 people from like 8 different countries for a 4-day event. So a lot less overhead, a lot less stress. We often have speakers coming in, talking to us or listening to us and speaking from different areas of the country as well, too, or at other people's events. So that's a story about how a bad decision we made turned out a really great learning experience that has helped us really become who we are today.
Scott, a quick question about the whole event thing, because, obviously you learned and you've shifted and changed your venue with that. And with the technology that we have now, it makes it really easy to do that. But are there any specific things that you do to make that still feel as personal as possible, since it is via, Zoom or webcam or whatever it is? There's still that computer barrier there for people.
Yeah, we do a couple of things with it. That's a really great question. I'm very interactive. I still take time to talk to our students, being able to bring them on camera and talk with them, make them live so they're asking questions of not only myself, but the speakers is a really great thing. We do a lot with social media. So we always run social media contests, and a lot of our students get involved in different posts and being creative and funny that way. So it gives them a chance to kind of kick back and relax. We also encourage them to network with the other attendees through a couple different venues. We use Basecamp as a great way in message board for everybody to kind of communicate before, during, and then after the event. And then we also are big about, with our events, if somebody goes to our events, we literally give them the registration list. So they have all the contact information of everybody that was there. We do that to encourage them to network after the event, to reach out to the other attendees, the other students. Hey, I've got a deal, or hey, it was great meeting you there. Let's hook up if we're in the local area and go from there.
And one of the things I was thinking about there is it seems to me like, those are definitely, a lot easier to put on from a logistical standpoint. And obviously they have their own logistical, issues as far as, or not issues, but, logistical challenges, if you will. But how often are you actually doing those? Because normally when you do like a large event, most people you see are just doing like one a year, or they'll like one big one a year, or they'll do like 4 or 5 small ones in different parts of the country. Obviously, these are 1,500 people to one of these events. So how many of those are you actually doing every year?
We do 2 of those big conferences a year. It's called Note Camp. We usually do one in April, and then we've got another one coming up here in November. And then we do 4 quarterly workshop events where we'll have 250 to 300 people on there. That's kind of our nuts and bolts training.
And do you charge for these?
Oh, yeah. My time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable. Free has no value. And although what's great, though, is the fact that we do them virtually like this, we were able to cut the cost down quite a bit versus somebody paying, $1,500 to $2,000 to go to an in-person event. Our, like our 4 quarterly events are, $600. Our 2 big conferences a year are usually just a couple $100, depending on when they buy the tickets or their early bird special. So it's a lot more affordable. So there's other things we throw in. We throw in the recordings included. The contact list is really valuable. When you have 1,500 people you can add to your database, that's awesome, who you understand what you're doing, are also note investors, and really help share the information. And then we also, to add value to the event, we offer up a survey that we get about 30-40% of those that attend to fill out the survey that tells them a little bit more about themselves. Their LinkedIn address, their email, their mailing address, what they're looking for, their focus. Do they have an IRA? Do they have a website? How many deals have they done? Are they looking to joint venture with people? So that information makes the event a lot more valuable because you know who's going to be there with you, along with it giving you a feel for like, oh, I really need to spend time. I need to reach out to these 50 people first and foremost, we get a chance to talk with them. And the nice thing too is people are chatting back and forth using the chat and Q&A sessions in the technology. So there's the availability for them to just, if they see somebody or talk with somebody on chat roll, they can go offline and pick up the phone and give them a phone call and talk to them in person as well.
Well, I could ask you so many more follow-up questions to this topic because it's very intriguing to me. What I'd like for you to do is when we're done with this episode, I'd like for you to schedule to be on my Saturday podcast as well. We can dialogue a lot more back and forth on this because I love this topic and I love your energy and I'd love to have you on that show. But let's move on to another tough decision that you've had to make that, had a really good and positive outcome and some of the lessons you learned through that.
Whenever you're an entrepreneur, if you're going to do something and build something big, you can't do it yourself. You've got to either bring on assistants, either whether they're in the office or they're virtual, or you've got to bring on partners and vendors to help you out to do things. And we're pretty blessed that a lot of our business runs through our vendors. Recently, actually, this is kind of a tough situation. We were getting ready to go on a 3-week European vacation, and I have a staff here in Austin that handles a lot of stuff for me. I had one lady in particular who handles my loan portfolio. She communicates with my vendors and my attorneys, does a really good job. And she was going to handle some duties while I was out of town for 3 weeks. And we practiced on this. We trained on it a couple days before. And then the morning of, I'm getting ready to head to the airport to fly out to London. She decides to tell me she's not going to do that for the next 3 weeks, along with other things. And so I was like, wow. So if you're not going to do what I tell you to do and what your job is to do it, there's no reason to keep you. So I fired her. She worked with me for a couple of years. And that's always difficult. I'm like driving on the airport, like stressing. I'm like, oh my God, what did I just do? I mean, I'm a big proponent. If somebody's going to cuss you out and not do their job, you need to be quick on firing, long on hiring, quick on firing, right? So I'm sitting there like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm headed to jump on a plane in like 2 hours. What am I going to do? So I made some phone calls to a couple of my vendors and said, hey, I need you to pick up the slack for me a little bit. So they did a really great job. And, I went on my vacation. Everything went pretty smooth. I get back. I'm a little behind the 8 ball with some of the things, trying to find somebody who can fit in that position. Well, I reach out to my vendors and say the same thing. Hey, if you know somebody that's looking for a job similar to what so-and-so was doing, please let me know. Well, lo and behold, immediately one of them reaches out to me. Hey, we've got somebody on our staff who's looking for a full-time position. And it's just turned out to be a blessing in disguise. I got somebody that was a lot more qualified, who does a lot better job, who works remote, as well as just, actually was working on my portfolio to begin with. So it was an easy transition for me. But that was a hard decision when you let somebody go that's been with you for a couple of years. You try to help people out as best you can. And we like to think of our vendors and our staff as family. But sometimes if people aren't going to do their job, they're just going to sit there and milk you. And really that's stealing if they're going to, work for you, but not do what you tell them to do. And you're gone for 3 weeks and they're just going to sit there and milk the clock. You got to let that person go because it's very easy to pay somebody else a part-time basis or a higher hourly basis to step in for a short period of time to make sure a job gets well done.
Scott, could you talk a little bit about some of the strategies that you like to use when you are facing a difficult decision?
Strategy? I didn't think there was enough. I'm a big proponent. I try to think about it as best I can. I try never to make a decision if I'm emotional. If you make a decision when you're emotional, that's usually not going to turn out well for you. All right. I know a lot of us get upset. Maybe we get emails or we get social media posts from people that we think are nasty or people upset or something like that. The best thing I can do, or I can tell you to do, is just wait. If you feel like writing an email, write it, but don't send it. Just wait a day. Wait 24 hours for your blood to come down. Talk with somebody that you admire, a mentor, a peer. Say, hey, what do you think of this person? What do you think they're really saying? Because I think a lot of times we take things for granted. Somebody, my mom likes to send emails in all caps. Doesn't mean she's yelling at me, okay? So you have to take that with a grain of salt. Always talk to people. Hey, give people, sometimes sleeping on a decision is one of the best things you can do. That's what we like to do most of the time. If I can, I like to sleep on it. Take some time, talk to my VP of operations, my spouse, talk to my mentors, pick up the phone, give them a phone call. Hey, what do you think about this? And oftentimes, like I said before, trust your gut. If your gut's telling you one thing, it's probably the right thing to go with. And then if you start having your mentors and peers tell you the same thing, no matter what you think, just run with it.
All right. We're going to take a quick break to hear from one of our show sponsors. When we come back, we'll talk to Scott about some of his favorites as it relates to his life as an entrepreneur.
Have you ever thought about investing in real estate but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. And we are back with Scott Carson. Scott, we're going to start talking about a series of quick questions and answers that we call the trifecta. And so I want you to start us off by telling us what your most favorite technology is that you use in business and helps make your life easier as an entrepreneur. And I know you already mentioned Basecamp. I love Basecamp as well. So do you have one outside of that?
Zoom.us.
I would agree with that one too.
I love it. We use it. I mean, I've got my own podcast and we use it with that. I use it for, we do a webinar every Monday night. We use it with our workshops. Zoom.us is such a great tool. It saves so much time. It saves us so much money with our events because our overhead goes from 20 grand an event down to basically just a few $100. The fact that I can communicate with you and talk with you or anybody in the world with a Zoom connection or internet connection just makes us awesome.
Scott, what is a favorite quote that you've heard that has helped you as an entrepreneur?
Oh, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go where there is a path. Go where there's none and leave a trail. That's one of my favorite quotes of all time. I think I butchered it a little bit, but
we got the idea.
You got the idea, exactly. That is when I started doing this note investing stuff 11 years ago, it really was the Wild West. There was a lot of people that were getting out of the business. There wasn't a lot of stuff for the secondary market, the smaller investors. And so I really felt like we've carved out a path the last decade plus in buying distressed debt. So that's a quote that always has stuck with me that I actually have had as an email signature for a while. And it's one thing that I absolutely love.
What's a favorite book that you have read that has helped you make better decisions as an entrepreneur?
Oh, you're going to love this one. Outwitting the Devil. It's Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil. It's written by Napoleon Hill and Sharon Lechter, who co-wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Have you guys read it?
I was just going to say, we've heard a lot of people, list the Think and Grow Rich book, but I don't think anybody ever said that particular one.
Okay, This is the best book I've ever read, and I love Think and Grow Rich, okay? The concept of it is Napoleon Hill actually wrote this book in 1938. His wife would not let him publish it because of the fact, in the book, he's having a conversation with the devil, asking the devil what makes him so successful, okay? So it got buried deep in his file folders, and then Don Green, the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation, found it a few years ago, found the manuscript, took it to Sharon Lechter. Sharon decided to get it published with him, and what she did, she didn't really change too much stuff. She just added what she thought Napoleon Hill would think of the world as of today in the comments, because it's really interesting, because in the premise of the book is, as he's asking the devil what makes him successful, he talks about the fact that, it's great. I love to confuse entrepreneurs. I love to confuse people out there. Those people that try to do 5, 6 things, they're not successful at any one of those things. So I win. Now, what I really have trouble with, the devil goes on to say, is those that are successful are those that are focused. Those are the people that focus on one thing. They don't drift. And the more I can get people to drift, the less successful they're going to be, the happier I'm going to be. Those that are focused and stay on task, aren't chasing the squirrels or the shiny objects, those are the people that have the most success in life. They're the ones that do the most amount of damage out there in the world as far as helping people overcome obstacles.
So what's the next thing for you right now on your vision or your dream board?
Next thing for me, we've got a big thing. The note business has been kind of a niche business out there. Everybody likes, there's specific educators out there for years that do a great job besides me. We talked about a couple beforehand who are just phenomenal people. And it's always seemed that it's kind of an older crowd, a little bit more seasoned, I would say. I guess I'm kind of the younger guy in the crowd. But with what we've done with our marketing and really our, I would say our followers and our biggest cheerleaders, is I'm actually putting together something the first of the year to reach out to the rest of the note investing world to bring everybody together, where we help market everybody's education, everybody's classes, and help them really get the word out and really grow what we're doing across the board. So we're in the works of, aligning up with the educators out there, getting them on board with a website that we're putting together. And I'm pretty excited about it because I think it's going to do a lot of good for everybody in the industry.
Well, how can the listeners reach out to you, Scott, if they want to get more information about what you're working on and start to follow you a little bit more, or maybe even check out your podcast?
Sure. So they can check us out at our website, WeCloseNotes.com. WeCloseNotes.com. A great place there to opt in. Connect with me there. My email is Scott@WeCloseNotes.com. Really easy to find that. And then you can always check out our podcast. It's called the Note Closers Show. So pretty excited about where the show is going. We've done it for just about 13 months, coming up on 200,000 downloads. So we're pretty stoked about that. Get a lot of people that love it. I love your guys' show. You guys are doing a great job with this. I've been binging your show.
Oh, good. Well, good. Well, we look forward to continuing to follow you as well, and also, seeing how you continue to grow and have you on a future episode. And I do want you to reach out to me again to get on our Saturday show as well. And once we get off here.
Sounds good, man. I really love being on here. I think podcasting is such a great avenue for everybody. And it's still a small market, but there's so much growth going on. It's exciting to see people like you guys doing a great job with the show and seeing your show grow along with others as well. I think it's really an untapped market out there.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you again, and hope you have a good rest of your day.
Hey, you guys too. Be safe. Stay out of trouble. Go out and find some capital. We'll see you at the top.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email, where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.